about the things that are interesting to us, i.e., college football, and then we typically go from there. I don't think there are much more interesting things happening in the pop culture world right now than what we saw last night. Will Smith smacked the hell out of Chris Rock, and that's basically the gist of that story on national television at the Academy Awards. Walked up to Chris Rock on stage, slapped the hell out of him on international television, I should say, not even national television, international television. Now, some backstory to this here. Chris Rock, one of the hosts at the Academy Awards last night, made a joke toward Jada Pinkett Smith, Will Smith's wife, saying she looks like she was getting ready for her role in G.I. Jane 2. Now, Jada Pinkett Smith is, I don't want to say bald, but has very short hair, like buzz cut level hair right now. But it's because she suffers from an autoimmune disorder that causes hair loss. So, not a fashion statement, a disease causing Jada Pinkett Smith to lose her hair. And so, after the joke from Chris Rock, Will Smith walked up and then used his training, I guess, from when he was Ali, and just five fingers to the face. Walked down the seat, got muted here in North America, but around the globe, you can go find the video if you want to. Will Smith was still talking at Chris Rock after that. So, PJ, your immediate reaction to Will Smith, a icon, I'd say one of the top 3-4 actors, at least like for our generation growing up, slapping Chris Rock on television.
The immediate reaction was honestly, I didn't get to see it live. I ended up seeing it on social media and things like that. Well, my immediate reaction was just, nah, that's photoshopped or something or staged, right? There's no way that happened. And then watched it, and not only watched it, watched Chris Rock's reaction, obviously, and I was like, holy cow, like that was not staged. This is something that legit, because there's so many things that happen at those shows normally, right? That like are there to get your reaction and just kind of be a crazy thing. That's almost been now instilled in my head. Like, oh, okay, no way that's real. Haha, funny stuff. And obviously it was not. But I mean, there's a lot of different things,
Eh,
right?
it was a little funny.
Yeah,
It was a
right.
little funny.
It's crazy that, I mean, yeah, there's a lot going on there. I mean, even I think Chris Rock's, not only that, but his like reaction to that happening and kind of catching himself, but also I kind of respect the fact that he looked back at Will Smith for a second, and if there's other comedians up there, right? He kind of started to say something along the lines of like, I could go further, but he didn't. You know, there are other jokes to be made. You know, but he
Yeah.
didn't go there and got back on script, which was good. I thought that's great, because there's a lot of, other stuff with that situation and whatnot. But no, I thought, of course, the joke maybe out of taste a little bit, but because of her disease and what she has. At the same time, I know some comedians just make jokes to make it. They see a joke and they make it, right. They don't necessarily figure out the backstory of why something's the way it is. They just make the joke. So was he that? I know
Well, let's get down to the nitty gritty.
beforehand, right? I didn't
Should
know
Will
that.
Smith have slapped him?
Uh,
Like, you're sitting there with a loved one, with your significant other. They have a disorder that obviously makes them uncomfortable.
yeah,
And then on international television, someone standing on stage making fun of them for that disorder. What, like,
right.
knowingly or not, someone's making fun of them for that.
Yeah, no matter what.
Are
Um,
you smacking somebody? Let's, if it's your mom.
right. You know me, dude. Like I try and I'm not by any means like a pacifist, I guess, but like my parents always told me, right, you don't start the fight, but you finish it. At the same time, right, you stand up for yourself if you need to. Um, so to that end, just immediate reaction. I mean, I'm not mad at him for it. I could see myself or a loved one doing that for sure, and I wouldn't necessarily chastise him that much.
Okay, so
Um, Although
here,
there is
all
a
right.
lot of time though in between, like him at the table and walking all the way up there to think about what you're about to do, and
Oh yeah, no, that was very
oh
deliberate. That was not a spur of
yeah,
the moment thing. He had plenty
no,
of steps to think about that.
right.
So no,
And he might have held back even, like, he might have walking up there been like, "I'm gonna do something more,"
he
and
said,
then
"I'm
it
gonna
was a
punch
slap and
him,"
like,
and then he's like, all
"I
right,
probably shouldn't
just a
punch."
slap,
Yeah, yeah,
just a
right.
slap." All right, so
There's
the other
worse
thing I
things
want
that
to
coulda
get to,
happened.
couple more actually here. There's now a huge push on social media, at least, for Will Smith to have to give his Oscar back because he won it for his performance in King Richard, the story of Richard Williams, Serena and Venus's dad. He won his first Academy Award there for that, and long time coming, right? Like probably should have won it for Pursuit of Happiness, but that's just me. Uh,
Right.
so long time coming for Will Smith. He wins it, and now a lot of people are saying he should have to give it back. My point to that would be the Academy hasn't asked for Harvey Weinstein's awards back yet.
Right.
So like maybe start there and then we can work our way down through like the list of horrifying things that Academy Award winners have done.
Yeah.
And then we can get to Will Smith slapping Chris Rock.
Yep. Yep. No, I would agree with that. It's at the forefront. One, it's at the forefront of everyone's mind because it just happened. Two, it's something that obviously you saw with your own eyes, and you have cameras all over the world on. So I guarantee you, if I don't know, like you said, there's a lot of other terrible things that have happened in the shadows that people haven't seen and have just heard about,
But they're not in the
right?
shadows anymore. Yeah, like they're
No, well,
out
right, but
yeah,
yeah,
everybody
but
knows
no,
about it now.
you're exactly right. That's a train that someone thought of, and people are
Yeah.
piling on it because there's something to pile on, right? But no, I completely agree with you.
I
That's
think a lot of folks
embarrassing.
are just saying it just for believing it or not, just saying it for the retweets and for the
Exactly.
social media engagement. All right, the main point I want to get to from this though is it's been maybe the last decade really since this has really started, and it kind of started with the Me Too movement. A lot of people call it the quote unquote PC culture out there. The safe space I thought for like a lot of these jokes for a while, and a lot of people thought this was comedy, right? Stand up comedy. There are things that nobody would say to someone
Yeah.
else in real life. You see in comedy shows, and one of like the biggest stars doing this was Chris Rock in his heyday as a stand-up comedian. It was kind of a shock stand-up comedian, right? Where he said the things where half the crowd was going, "Oh," and the other half of the crowd was kind of crying with laughter, right? So
Yeah.
the last bastion I thought of that was with stand-up comedy, but over the last 10 years, even stand-up comics have started to have to be careful. And I think it was George Carlin was the one who said, like, you're supposed to, or a comedian's job is to find the line and then deliberately step across it. And now it seems more so like comedians are having to kind of straddle that line where if you are completely on the quote unquote right side of being PC, you're not going to do well as a stand-up comedian because the reality of jokes is they're always at someone's expense,
Yeah.
right? Like jokes are always at someone's expense, whether they're self-deprecating, whatever they are, they're going to be at someone's expense. So you have to tread that line, and some people do it more carefully than others. Some people just really don't care about it. I think back to Louis C.K. would be an example of that before he got into his own mess. But looking at this, I think we now what Will Smith did last night kind of sets a dangerous precedent where it used to be if someone was so offended by what was being said at a stand-up show, either A, you just turn it off, like whatever you're watching, turn it off and go watch something else, or B, you leave, right? You leave whatever
Yeah. Yeah.
club you're at watching the stand-up comedy. Like actually assaulting a comedian, which is what Will Smith did. I mean, like letter of the law, he assaulted Chris Rock.
Right.
That I think sets a dangerous precedent because I think
Yep.
if you want to go into like First Amendment, you're able to say whatever you want to say. I just beyond that, just like what we see as stand-up comedians, you go there understanding that they're going to be saying things that are, a little out there, right? Can be offensive, right? Getting physically violent because of that, I think is extremely dangerous, and I think that can be something that's worrisome for stand-up comedians going forward.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that totally understandable. And I think that that's something that, as you just said, has been starting to come up more and more over the past few years, and comedians themselves have talked about it during their shows and things like that. So, yeah, no, I know what you mean, and I agree with you too. I mean, I know I just like I just kind of agreed with like it's like you said, it's a crazy line to kind of try and figure out what's right and what's wrong, and that's part of. I mean, that's what comedy is to a certain extent too. Is as you just said, kind of saying those things that no one else is going to say, and um, I think again, like I don't know, when you joke about people's choices or things they've done in the past or whatever, that's one thing. I do think kind of going at someone's like I think the joke was obviously over the line a little bit,
Right, right, but the
but that's not the
is the
question.
reaction to that, like, is the reaction to that going up on stage, like, for whatever you believe, right? If someone was to make an abortion joke during a show, would the reaction to be, if that offended you so bad, to go up on stage and hit him?
Right? Yeah, probably not. Probably shouldn't be. Right? Yeah.
So I think more so
I'm
what
with
you
you
do
there.
is, like, you don't laugh, and the comedian has to kind of fall on their sword because they realize because
The
of
joke
that,
they just made. Yeah.
yeah, the joke fell.
Right.
Right, so I think it's interesting. It maybe sets, like, something that could be concerning. Like, I hope we don't see a rash of it going forward. Again, you understand the emotion from Will Smith. Lord knows that's been an interesting relationship.
Well, I
And
mean that. Yeah.
yeah, Will Smith's led an interesting life, but Chris
Right.
Rock trying to be a comedian, whether he makes a mistake or not, like, I think that's pretty dangerous when he gets smacked for doing that.
Yeah. I mean,
So there you go.
I can agree with you there. Yeah. I can agree with you there. Like obviously it could have been a whole lot better, and it could have been a whole lot worse also. But no, as you said, Chris Rock is that type of comedian at the same time. Like, he
Oh,
is
no,
one of those like
go watch
jolty
a Chris
shock.
Rock
Yeah,
stand-up special. Go watch a Chris Rock stand-up special. That might be like the 15th most offensive thing he says, inside of one of his stand-up specials. So it is what it is. Curious to see if they let him on, like, the set of Grown Ups 3 now. I don't know. We'll have to wait. We'll have to wait and see. But there you go. That's our pop culture talk here on Second Down. We do have some sports talk to get into. We had a couple commitments from some big time local recruits over the weekend. One of them, Luke Cromenhog, quarterback there up at Benedictine, going into his junior year, but just committed to Florida State. We're going to catch up with him next, and then a little interesting college football, college basketball discussion when we come back as well. This is Second Down on ESPN Radio. We'll be back after this. Second Down on ESPN Radio is presented to you by the Uniform Source. Christian Gokel alongside PJ Zuko. All right, PJ, before we get to Luke here, I got to know if someone's up there slandering this player, PJ Zuko is walking on stage and just giving him the old Will Smith.
Oh man. I don't know. Now all the that's the thing. All the big picture questions you asked me in the last break just has me contemplating a lot of stuff. So now maybe
No, this
maybe
is a
no
simple,
player.
this is a simple.
know?
Like if someone up there goes Saquon Barkley's mid,
Okay, that's just wrong. Like I just feel bad for them at that point.
you're not going to physically hit him in the face.
Probably, and this is personally my favorite my favorite Penn State player of all time.
Okay.
And yeah, if someone is disrespecting Michael Robinson,
Let's go.
then they need something. Yeah, because just like not only what he did at Penn State, but in the league as well, switching to fullback, winning a Super Bowl, all the great work he does for NFL Network right now. I mean, just if you're saying something bad about Michael Robinson,
PJ Zuko's throwing
yeah,
hands.
yeah, it's going to be a problem.
So like you're giving him the old 1-2 or just the old one Will Smith to the face?
I think the 1-2 shouldn't be used for football slander or anything like that. The old 1-2 has to be used for something more that's more of a problem, more important, right? But football slander, yeah, you should probably get smacked for
Okay,
for
what about
Robinson.
opinion wise? Like, is there any like sports take out there that just makes you so mad?
I don't know.
No?
That's a difficult one
Okay,
because
that's tough.
there's a lot of sports takes that are just wrong.
All right.
But one that bad, I would have to hear like.
What about when Skip Bayless says LeBron James is the 9th best basketball player of all time?
See, that's just he's just saying that for. I know he's wrong. Two, he doesn't believe that because how can you watch sports and believe that? So it's fine.
That's fair. Well,
that's just for TV, I mean, and I get that. That's part of the media game, right? It is what it is.
You know who PJ also supports like that is another Robinson, Allen Robinson. PJ Zuko will fight somebody for Allen Robinson.
As someone should, like, I'm just happy he's actually like he's gonna have a quarterback in Los Angeles, like not just some guy who should be flipping burgers, right? Like,
whoa.
that doesn't have any athletic ability throwing the football. Like he's going to be able to.
Did you just come at Mitch Trubisky and Blake Bortles like that?
A lot of people. Andy Dalton.
Gracious.
Yeah.
All right.
I was kind of excited when Justin Fields started playing for Chicago because I actually like Justin Fields a baller. To me, I think he's going to be a really solid fit up there now that they have a coach. We'll see.
Sideswipe Matt Nagy. Goodness gracious!
I mean, we'll see. We'll see how good of an offensive.
You know who's good at? You know who is good at throwing a football? You know who is good at throwing a football?
Yeah.
Our next guest, Benedictine Cadet, just committed to Florida State over the weekend. He's going into his junior football season. Currently still a sophomore though at BC. But Luke Kromenhoek had a chance to catch up with him a little bit earlier. So let's hear what Luke had to say. What was it about the Seminoles that made him want to go ahead and commit? Joining us here on ESPN Radio, Luke Kromenhoek. Thanks for taking the time, man.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
And listen, it's a heck of a turnaround. You playing strong safety there for the state champion 4A Benedictine Cadets. And now before you take a snap as a first-team quarterback, you're already committed to a high-level ACC school there at Florida State. What was it about the Seminoles that got your commitment this early?
It was mostly I had a conversation with my parents and my quarterback coach down in Jacksonville, Coach Denny Thompson. And we just talked about it, and I kind of decided that it was the best place for me. I mean, the coaches are unbelievable. They treated me like family right when I got there. The fans are awesome. The history's rich. And I really think that FSU is on the rise back up to being one of the best college football teams in college football.
What did Mike Norvell sell you on? Because you kind of mentioned they're on the rise. It hasn't been the most successful past few years for Florida State football or their fans there. What kind of vision did he give to you that made you want to spend your college career there?
He just he's implanted and he's put it in all of his players' heads that they're going to be the best. They're doing all the right things. They're working hard. They're training hard, and there's just something about Coach Norvell that really makes me believe him when he says that they're going to be the best again.
Why so early? You have a junior season coming up in front of you where it'll be your first time as the starting quarterback there in high school, and then you have a whole nother senior season. I know a lot of guys really like to take all the official visits they can take. Some people, heck, I mean, I don't blame them. You get one chance to be recruited. Just like having the chase, like having all the teams come after them. Why commit so early?
Um, Everything just made sense. It's a great program, and all the visits that I had taken there, it made sense for me to be there. They were my first offer, so it meant something to me that they believed in me first, even without having any film that they offered me. So that was part of the reasons, and just my relationship with the coaches. It was something special, and I could tell that they really meant it, and that it was just a place that I'd want to be.
Now, a little bit about you just as a quarterback, because as you mentioned, there's plenty of film out there of you, but a lot of it's as a wide receiver, a lot of it as a strong safety there for the cadets. But as a quarterback, what do you feel like you bring to the table?
I'm a leader. I love to lead. I'm kind of just natural at it, so I'll be a leader. But I'm also the type of quarterback that if I end up having to have to run through a big old D lineman to get in the end zone, that's what I'm going to do. I'm the type of quarterback that I'll sacrifice my body if it means the team wins. I'm all about winning, and I just love to succeed. So I'll do whatever it takes to win.
Now, you had a chance to spend the past few years with Holden Garner, who's out at Auburn right now. What are some of the things you learned from him, kind of as his understudy?
Um, you know, he, Holden was great, a great quarterback, obviously, and he taught me a lot of stuff. Um, some of the things that I took away from him were how calm he was. He was very, very calm in the games, so I can use that to my advantage. And he taught me how to be a leader as well. He's a very, very good leader last year, and he's a competitor. A lot of people don't know it, but he's a big, big competitor. So he kind of kind of taught me to compete. So we kind of connected on that. And he also taught me a lot of things about defenses and, taught me the plays as well.
Now, committing this early, a lot of times the role you see guys take is not only as a commitment, but as an active recruiter. So does the recruiting process start now for you? Because I know there's a guy you currently play with that you probably like to play with in the future too.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I mean, recruiting's definitely, I'm trying to build up this 2024 class. I've already talked to a bunch of some big time players, one being Cam Davis. He's already committed. And I've talked to him, and we've gotten together, and we're all about building up this recruiting class for the Knowles, and we want to make it the best. And I'm going back down there for the spring game in 2 weeks, and I'm going to talk with Coach Tokarts, the quarterback coach, and he's going to help me put a list together. And I'm going to get on some guys and try and get them to become Knowles.
Who are some guys on this current cadets team that you could see committing and going on to play some big time college football? I know Zaquan Bryan, your number one receiver there, has offers from all over the place right now. But who are some people we need to know their names?
I think Bryce Baker is a big name. The dude's a freak. There was 2 weeks back to back in the playoffs where the dude had 19 tackles. That's unheard of. So I think this year will be a big year for him as a rising junior. I think he'll have a huge year. There's also some other guys like Ladon Bryant. I feel he could be very, very highly recruited. He's a big, tall dude, 6'4", and can jump. So he'll play some receiver. And Cole Simeon, he's got a couple of offers right now. I think he'll be very, very good. And there's a couple other players, Ashley Edwards, Lamont Mitchell. I think all of those dudes they're good enough to play.
Luke Kromenhoek, quarterback at Benedictine, joining us. He's committed to Florida State. Still has a couple years of high school to go before he gets there. But Luke, when you look at you're committed to Florida State, you're getting all the pats on the back right now. But I know one guy that's consistently going to be not patting you on the back, but on your back, Coach Danny Britt there. What are some of the things he's identified that you need to work on before you go out there and take over this team?
Well, he knows that I'm young, and so we have had a couple meetings where I've gone into his office and we've talked about it, and he wants me to take over the leadership role as a rising junior. Usually, it's the seniors that do it, but he wants me to start as a junior. So I'm going to work on him. I'm going to work on becoming a better leader around the guys. Gaining the trust of them because I haven't taken a snap in high school, so they don't really know what I can do. So I just kind of gaining the trust of those of our players and kind of just having them have trust in me and letting me lead them.
Again, Luke Kromenhoek joining us here on Second Down. You'll be able to hear all of his games coming up this fall right here on ESPN Radio Savannah. Luke, I appreciate the time, man. Congratulations. Look forward to seeing you as we start putting those pads back on, man.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much for having me.
So there you go. Luke Kromenhoek commits to Florida State there, PJ. Second big-time Florida State commitment out of South Georgia here over the past few months, as Kenyatta Charlton from Brunswick is already down at Florida State playing for Mike Norvell. But you see Florida State, and they're kind of making some headway now in South Georgia. Two really good players going to be suiting up for the Seminoles in the not-too-distant future.
Yeah, absolutely, and two guys that they can bring a lot, I think, to the Seminoles for sure. And as you said, it's going to be a few years for Luke as he develops there as a junior and as a senior there for Benedictine. But we've seen already some of his talent, not only on the defense, but coming in at certain times for the Cadets on the offensive side of things. And honestly, I was there for a few of them. I know you had them all year, but just seeing some of the most explosive and craziest plays of the year was when Luke Kromenhoek was kind of filling in a quarterback there, or was in at the end of a game or something like that, and he just comes in and electrifies everybody around him and gets in the end zone. So as he said there too, he's a big guy, big bodied guy, not afraid to get in between the trees, right? Get in between the tackles and try and make a play either if he needs to. So there's a lot to like there if you're a Florida State Seminole. Of course, now he's committed, right? But as you said a few times in that interview, he's committed. It's early.
Yeah.
It's early, right? And that doesn't mean that all of these other teams are going to stop, right? So now, if you're a Florida State Seminole, you're very excited. Of course, I'm excited for him as I am with all these players when they announce decisions to and get these offers and whatnot. But at the same time, now it's all about putting that focus back on developing, and also if you're a Seminole fan, holding on to him. And I'm sure over the next few years, Mike Norvell and that plan he has of getting the Seminoles back to kind of being in the top side of college football is going to be huge in doing exactly that and keeping these recruits held on.
Yeah, Florida State, a really interesting program to watch. Mike Norvell, it feels like he hasn't really made a ton of progress going up, but more so than that, it just kind of feels like Florida State has kind of stopped the bleeding, I guess is the best way to put it. Things aren't getting worse, and you got to do that before you can start getting better. So it's going to be interesting to watch.
There's a lot of bleeding.
There was a lot. There was so much. But Florida State getting better, it seems, one day at a time. Tough schedule for them coming up in 2022, and don't know what that roster is really going to look like with some of the transfers in and out, but could be a fun team to watch going forward. And again, some really local guys headed down to Tallahassee to help out Mike Norvell and that staff. Kalen DeLoach from Islands, one of the bigger players on that team. He's going to have to step up coming up here in 2022 as well. So a ton of really interesting players headed down there. A lot of local ties. Going to be fun to watch. Let's take a quick break. We're going to come back. I have another philosophical conversation to have with PJ around college basketball and college football. Conversations kind of making its rounds around the internet. Want to get our 2 cents on the situation. We'll talk some Final Four as well. This is Second Down on ESPN Radio. Second down on ESPN Radio. PJ Zuko, Christian Gokel, hanging out with you here. I guess I should say my name first so we don't confuse the people, but you know, I can be PJ for the day. Who knows?
Well, I mean that's fine. I think I don't know. By this point, do they think they know who PJ
Well,
and who Christian
what
is,
if it's
or
a first time listener, PJ?
maybe? I'm PJ.
Chris
Hi.
Berman said you should never assume
That's
what the
true.
audience knows.
Understandable, but you know,
Because like,
things
listen,
happen.
I like to think that the audience knows the difference between a 7 technique and a 9 technique, but we got to explain it sometimes. So it is what it is. No, these are my favorite kind of conversations because they're extremely theoretical. We could sit there and we can talk about the backup guard situation for Georgia in spring practice, and that's exactly what we're going to do tomorrow. But
Interesting.
I do love these theoretical conversations. I say theological because, you know, sports are a religion to us around here. But that being said,
Oh man.
the Peacocks, man, St. Peter's, they had a great run through the NCAA tournament. It ended the way we all knew it was going to end, just getting absolutely bludgeoned by a superiorly talented team.
We didn't know that.
Yeah,
never know.
Yeah, you do know.
You
And
thought it was going to be Kentucky, didn't you? Nope.
no, you know, I thought Kentucky, if there was going to be a team you could upset, it was probably Kentucky. I want you to remember,
Always,
PJ, as
yeah.
we were standing in the front of our office there in front of the TV, you asked me if I filled out a bracket. I said no, which is bad, but I should have done it, but it is what it is. But then you asked me, okay,
Right
well,
there
who
with
do you think is going to win? Who did I say was going to win, PJ? Do you remember?
Off the top of my head, no.
North Carolina. And as we sit here, 8 seed in North Carolina is in the Final Four. So, you know,
Okay. Yeah.
I can flex a little bit. But the conversation that has started to happen is everyone says St. Peter's is great for college basketball, great for the sport. I would say more so than that. The sport is great for St. Peter's because kind of what Coach K said is they're about to make some cheese just off of this appearance that they made into the Elite Eight. All of the enrollment, the people looking at their basketball program, season ticket sales next year, they're about to make some cheddar. I mean, this is a team that's walking in to an Elite Eight game with their warm-ups that don't have their school logo on them, right? So they're about to make some money, but they think it's great for college basketball. This is why college football needs more teams so you can have a run like a St. Peter's. It makes the sport more interesting, more parity. You'd have upsets. You'd have close games in the playoffs. I'll give my opinion, then I'll let you give yours because I know I always throw these theoretical conversations on you and don't give you a chance to really think about it. So I'll give you my point and then see what you think. You know me. I am very hesitant to expand the playoffs at all because I think the regular season for college football does a good enough job. Every now and then you have 5 teams in college football where you're like, yeah, those 5 teams could have an argument for being the best team in the country. Like those 5 teams could beat each other on any given Saturday. The rest of college football, you're like, it would be a huge upset if they beat them, and it probably won't happen. More often than that is you have 1, maybe 2 teams where you're like, that's just the best team. They're going to win. Like usually we know Clemson and Alabama for the past few years have been 2 of those teams, right? Georgia will pop up. You think Oklahoma, but then they get to the playoffs and it all goes down the drain, right? So you usually know. 2019, we knew LSU was the best team just based off what we saw over how many games you have to win before you get to the 13 games, right? They beat Alabama, they beat Georgia, they beat the hell out of a ton of really good teams. Like, yeah, that's probably the best team in college football. Then they score or throw 6 touchdown passes in the first half against Oklahoma, right? So you usually know who the good teams are in college football. And college basketball, and maybe it's just because there's so many more teams. I'd say there's 20 to 30 teams every year that have a realistic shot of winning the national championship. And that's because these sports are so different for a lot of different reasons, right? College basketball, you have to be there for 1 year before you can go to the NBA. So a lot of times the best teams, or the quote unquote star-wise best teams, are the youngest teams, a bunch of 18, 19-year-olds on those teams. Whereas college football, you have to be there for at least 3 years. So St. Peter's, one of the reasons they were so good is the average age of that team. They had some 23, 24-year-olds on that basketball team, right? Whereas they're playing teams like in Kentucky that have a lot of 18, 19-year-olds on that team. So even if the talent's better, those guys just have more experience, like in general, because they've been alive longer. But they have more experience playing college basketball than a bunch of freshmen. But it's just basketball in and of itself lends to upsets much more than football does, because football is decided by 350 pounders at the line of scrimmage. And if I have guys who go 340 across the front and they're too deep, like I can just rotate them out like a hockey line change, and you have a couple of 300 pounders. And once you start getting into your depth, you're pulling up unranked guys that had no stars coming out of high school. Things are going to get embarrassing really fast, right? It's kind of like it's what we saw from Cincinnati. Cincinnati, I'd say they're the first line on their depth chart, right? Their first teamers, that was about as good as anybody outside of Georgia and Alabama in the country, right? You had 2 NFL corners out there. Desmond Ridder is going to be on an NFL roster. Ford, the running back, was really good. Myjai Sanders, the defensive lineman, was really good. And they had solid dudes playing linebacker, really good defensive line. Like you line that first team up with most teams around the country, and it's one of the best, right? But what happened when they played Alabama? Alabama just said, we're going to hand the ball to Brian Robinson, who's been super okay, and he's going to go for 200 yards against you because you have nothing. You have no answer. Once you have to substitute on the line of scrimmage, there's nothing you can do. So when I hear, hey, expand the playoffs, it'll lead to more upsets, my question is, who? Do you consider a 4 over a 5 an upset, or a 5 over a 4 an upset? Because that's really the only place you're going to see upsets. If we did this year and you had a 16 team playoff, who would have been 16? Like Tennessee? Someone like that? I'm honestly asking. Wisconsin, like, were they one of those?
I mean, Tennessee wasn't up there. I mean, they were what, 6-6 at that point. I mean, like, but a team like Wisconsin might have been, yeah. There were, a team like, I don't know. Yeah, some of the other SEC teams, or probably there was probably 1 or 2 Pac-12 teams up there.
Let's see.
Probably
Oklahoma.
a fringe.
No, Oklahoma. So
there you go.
So
Yeah.
like, I'll just give you 14 through 18. Oregon, Iowa, Oklahoma, Wake Forest, and NC State.
Right.
Like, are they pulling the upset? Are they beating Alabama?
I mean, probably most likely not. But I also wouldn't be an advocate for a 16-team playoff, so I can't.
Okay, so
I can't really stand with you there.
If it was 8, if it was an 8-team playoff, it would have been Alabama, Ole Miss again.
Yeah, right.
And Alabama beat the hell out of Ole Miss.
They beat the hell out of Ole Miss, but I think you also maybe you change your game plan a little bit if you're Ole Miss, because quite honestly, I think the game plan failed them more than a lot of other things. But I mean, I get what you're saying. I think the argument, not your argument, I think the argument that people are starting to come up with is wrong. It's coming from a wrong place. I think I'm a big reason person, right?
Right.
You should argue for something, but if your reason's off or if your reason's wrong, then that's a problem. Saying that we should have an expanded college football playoff because look at the success that that college basketball has. It, like you said, it's a completely different sport. It's a completely different field. That there's different talent levels. I mean, in college basketball, you have teams that are made up of, like you said, complete freshmen. Their first 10 guys that they use on the roster, if they go 10 deep, are all freshmen. They're all 5-star, and they're all probably getting drafted next year. So they really got only one shot, and they have basically no chemistry together, and that's why you see them lose, right? And then you have other teams that are full of seniors and juniors and have that kind of, so it's a very different aspect. So I think the argument there is wrong. Do I think it should be expanded a little bit? Yes, because I think having 5 power conferences and then having another 5 quote unquote group of 5 conferences and then only having 4 spots to make up your college football playoff, I just don't think that makes any sense.
Listen, I hate going back to the same point over and over again, but it's the reality is a majority of the semifinals matchup, and those are the top 4 teams, have just been bludgeonings. And I think with college football, right, you have a St. Peter's that runs through college basketball, and they make a run like this. They don't beat just one team; they beat a few teams to get to the Elite Eight. They make a crazy run to get there, right? You've had teams in the past. Was it Duke that got upset Was that the first 16 over a 1 seed? Was that Mercer?
Yeah, it was Duke. No, it was some four letter acronym. It's like UCMB or something.
I think Mercer had a big one, like,
It was
not too
they
distant past
did.
too.
I
But
think they had a 14 over a 3 or a
yeah,
15
but
over a 2.
something crazy like that, or a Georgia State over Baylor, right? You have those, and those are awesome runs. And you see those teams sometimes win a couple games, like we just saw with St. Peter's. But then when you have that in college football, it lives in college football forever. Like App State over Michigan lives in college football forever. You know why? Because it's so absurd that it happened, and what it took for that to happen was just so astronomically crazy that you just don't see it. So it's just two completely different sports, two different styles of seasons, right? You can lose 11, 12 games in college basketball and still win the national championship. You can maybe lose one in college football and do that. So it's just I don't think you can compare those two sports because I think they're apples to oranges. I think the success of March Madness on its own is because of that. It's March Madness. You have a sport that lends itself to upsets. College football, you have a sport that lends itself to I'm bigger and stronger than you, more likely than not. I'm gonna beat the hell out of you, and it's not going to be overly competitive until we get to the national championship. If then, let's take a break. We'll come back. We'll continue this conversation. Get you ready for 3 and Out next, right here on Second Down. This is what happens when PJ and I start talking theology, theoretical, any other theos you can throw out there. We just pay zero attention to the clock, so I have very limited time here. But what I can tell you is 3 and Out is coming up next right here on ESPN Radio. BJ Bennett, Ben Troop, and Kevin Thomas updating you Brave spring training. We'll also catch up with Tony Barnhart talking some college football here as well. All that coming up next right here on ESPN Radio. If you missed any portion of our show, you can check all of it out on ESPNCoastal.com.